Today I'm sharing a double stretch bracelet with a Christmas theme. Welcome back, my jewellery making friends. If you're new here, my name is Carol, and on this channel I show you how easy it is to make your own jewellery. Today I'm making a Christmas themed project, and it is a double strand stretch bracelet, and I know everybody loves a stretch bracelet, right? I'm going to be using some 2-hole rhinestone spacer beads, and I want to show you how to make sure that you get the spacing of the beads right so that the strands are both the same length. Let's get started. I'll walk you step by step through the process, and I will talk about everything you need. I have in front of me all of the supplies that you will need to make this bracelet. Now, obviously you'll need some stretch elastic, and this one is a 0.6mm elastic, and it is clear. Now, for demonstration purposes, I'm actually going to be using black so that you can see what I'm doing. As well as that, I've got some 8x6 faceted crystal rondelles in red, green and clear, perfect Christmas colours. I have got some little beaded rondelles or daisy spacer beads. These ones are 5mm by 1mm. I've also got some 3mm silver balls and some 6mm silver balls. Now, it's really important in this project to know how much your beads measure. As well as that, I've got these 2 spacer beads. They have 2 holes and they have rhinestones on the top, kind of the star, those ones. I've got some beading needles. These are big eye beading needles, and they are particularly useful for stringing a stretch bracelet. I've got some little scissors, and I have a ruler. And that is all that you'll need to make this bracelet. It's super quick. The first thing we're going to do is get our elastic ready. Now, I've threaded already on my needle a piece of black elastic. It's about 1 metre long, which is about 1 yard, and I've folded it in half, so I have a fold at one end and I've got my needle threaded on the other. Now, the beauty of these big eye needles is that the hole in the needle goes almost the entire length of the needle, so it's nice and easy to get those 2 strands through. Now, before you string anything, you need to pre-stretch your elastic. So we're going to just take it and give it a good pull, and do this in sections, just pulling it. Obviously you don't want to break it, but you want to pull it as hard as you can, and sometimes it's useful to do this several times just so that it pre-stretches, so it's not going to stretch once your beads are on and you're wearing it on your wrist. So I'm going to go back and do that, going back the other way, just making it sure it's nicely pre-stretched. Now we're going to start stringing, but before I do that, I want to put a bead stopper on the other end, and I didn't mention that you needed this, but you do. You don't really, it's up to you, it's optional. It makes life a lot easier though. It means that your beads aren't going to fall off this end. And I love these things. I use them all the time. They're like a spring. You open it up and you pop your stringing material in, and then it won't move, so your beads won't fall off. Fantastic invention. So I've popped that on about 10 centimetres or so from the end, just to give myself space on this end to work. And the first thing I'm going to do is thread on one of my spacer beads, my rhinestone beads. I keep wanting to call it a rondelle. So I have my rhinestone spacer on there, and then I'm going to start stringing my beads, and I'm just going to tip them out on here. And I'm going to start with a clear one, and between each bead I am going to put one of these little daisy spacer beads. Then I'm going to go red, another spacer, then I'm going to go green, Now, I like these needles because they're nice and long and you can stack your beads on them before you push them down. Now, just be careful when you're pushing them down not to pull too hard on your needle, because if you pull too hard it can actually open that end. So I like to kind of protect it with my fingers as I push my beads down. So that is what I have now, and I am just going to repeat that pattern 3 more times, starting off with the daisy spacer, because I want a daisy spacer to go between each of my beads. While I'm stringing that, it might be a good time to talk about the jewellery that I'm wearing today. So the earrings I'm wearing are the candy earrings that I did the tutorial for last week, and if you would like to make those, I will leave a link in the description box below. And the necklace I'm wearing is actually a bracelet that I made a long time ago, and I've just added an extender chain to it. Using a toggle clasp, so I will leave a link in the description box for that as well. If you would like to see more of my jewellery making projects, it would be really great if you would subscribe to the channel, and of course like this video and ring that notification bell so that you will never miss a thing. I'd love to have you along for the ride. Okay, now I have 4 sets of my beads. So I've got 4, if I count the green ones, that's the last bead. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have started with a clear one, and I finished with the green. And I've actually put a little rondelle on there and I didn't mean to, so I'll just take that off. Try not to tie a knot in the process. Alright, now I'm going to put on my other spacer bead. Now it is important that you get them on the right way round because they only have the rhinestones on one side. So let's double check that it's correct, and it is. And look what I've done. Can you see it? I've got 2 daisy spacer beads in the middle there, and I'm going to have to take one off. So I'm going to take my bead stopper off. So simple to do, and put it on this end, and I'm going to just take those few beads off and fix that. That's better. So what I'm going to do now that I've got my spacer, both my spacers on, is I'm going to continue on and thread another of the strand of exactly the same beads, so that I end up with a spacer at one end and a spacer in the middle of all of my beads. So I'll go ahead and do that. Now I have all of my beads strung for this bracelet, for this red, green and clear strand, and I'm going to leave it there for a minute and string the other one. By the way, what do you think of the black going through the crystal beads? Do you like it, or do you think I should change it? Leave me a comment in the comment section below and let me know. I actually quite like it. Now of course I need to string my second strand, and I'm going to get another piece of my wire or elastic and stretch it out just like before. The pattern I'm going to use is one of my large beads and one of my small ones. I can't get out. So just like that, with a large, small, so 6, 3, 6, 3, but I want to make sure that it measures exactly the same length as this one here. So if I take my ruler and I measure this run of beads, it measures about 87 millimeters. So what I need to do is make sure that this strand is 87 millimeters as well. And to do that, I'm going to just add, I'm going to start with a large bead and thread on some of my smaller beads, just alternatively. So the goal here is to get this piece to be 87 millimeters as well. Okay, so I have 5 of the large beads on and I want to measure. So this measures 37 millimeters, so I need to do a little bit more to be half of 87. So half of 87 is 46, no, 45 and a half, isn't it? No, that's not right. It's 43 and a half. Goodness me, brain isn't functioning today. Actually, now I've put that extra one on, let's measure it. Right, so that is 44, almost, yeah, 44 millimeters. So that's too much. So what I'm going to do is remove that one. And I think what I might do is put some of these rondelles in the middle. Just 2. That will add 2 millimeters. The small balls are 3, so I'm going to add 2. See how I measured there. Okay. Yep, that feels right to me. So let's go ahead and put the others, string the other side of this. So just reversing the pattern, starting with the small one. Okay, so measuring this, I think I'm still about 6 millimeters short. So I'm actually going to add another of the small balls on either end. They're 3 millimeters each, so that gives me 6 millimeters. And it's all about trial and error when you're working out a bracelet like this. I want it to be perfect. So what I've found in the past is if I don't quite get it right, then I'm never happy with it. Never quite happy with it. I like it, but it's, you know, it's not perfect. So I like to make sure that my 2 strands measure the same length. And that measures, it's still a bit short. Let's try it with the other one here. I might actually pop it through. And that looks right to me, so I am going to thread this one through this end, through this spacer. Okay, just before I go any further, just double checking, I think that's right. So basically all I did there was add a 2 millimeters in the center. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and thread on the rest of my beads on using this exact same pattern. There's both strands of my bracelet all threaded up and ready to go. Now I'm going to put one of my bead stoppers on one of these strands so that it will hold the beads on while I tie the fabulous knot. Now this knot is very special. It's perfect for tying up these stretch bracelets because it doesn't come undone. If you've seen my stretch bracelet tutorials before, you will already know what I'm about to do. So what I have here is a loop in one end and my double ends, both ends on the other. So what I'm going to do first is thread my ends through the loop. So there's what I have, and you can see here's my loop on this side and my double end is going through. So I'm going to pull it all nice and tight. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to split my 2 ends and I'm going to go underneath my bracelet where that loop is, and I'm going to tie a knot, just crossing them over, putting one through the other and pulling it tight, and do that again. Now I'm going to take my ends again and cross them through the center of the bracelet, so putting one end through one way and one end through the other, and then pulling it up and making sure that it goes through that same space every time so that it's not looping around one of the beads. And then I'm going to tie 2 knots again, pulling it nice and tight. And I'm going to do that one more time, so putting it underneath the bracelet or through the center of the bracelet, and putting this one underneath and through the center as well. So you can see there what I'm up to, and then pulling it tight. And making sure that it goes through, that goes into that space there, the same space as you did before, and in this case it's right beside that spacer bead. Then I'm just going to tie that knot again and again. So all up I've tied 6 knots. pulling it nice and tight, and then I'm going to trim off that end. Now if you're still worried, you could put a little bit of glue on it and pop it inside the bead, but I've honestly never had one come undone. And when you trim it off, you can leave a tiny tail because it will pop right inside the bead there. If you have a look, there's my knot. So you can see it's kind of lying along the elastic. And it'll just disappear inside the beads. So now I'm going to repeat that for the other strand. So first of all, I'm going to loop it through the end. Put both strands through the end. And just pull everything up nice and tight. And the reason you loop it through is so that you don't lose the end. All right, it's looking good. And then I'm going to split my elastic, take it down underneath. Just got a little bit of an extra showing there. Just pull it a little tighter. Underneath that one strand of the bracelet, crossing them over. And bring them up and tying a knot, or 2 knots. My ends are a little long. Going back down underneath one side and then underneath the other, like that. Just crossing it over and pulling it tight into that same space and tying 2 knots. And repeat that one more time. And trim off the ends. So there's my bracelet, and nothing screams Christmas quite like red and green and silver as well, although you could make this with gold just as easily. I just love it. Now I've got my Christmas earrings, the candy earrings, I've got my Christmas bracelet, but I don't have a necklace, so I'll work on that one for next year. Remember, if you want to see more of my tutorials, it would be great if you would subscribe. And also check us out on Facebook and Instagram as well. This is my last video for 2022. I'm going to take a wee break and I will be back with lots of fun, exciting projects in 2023. So remember to check it out. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and see you in 2023.